and welcome to my podcast on real relationships. My name is Sophie Passon, and I am a relationship expert, international speaker, and best-selling author of a book, Your Other Half. I decided to start this podcast because, in my opinion, relationships are currently not being portrayed as what they really are. Whether you're watching the news, TV, or social media, the perception given to people is wrong. And my aim is to talk about what happens in the real world, talk about real stories, and listen to what real people think, do, or go through, as opposed to creating expectations of something that doesn't actually exist. I may not agree with everything they said by my guests, but it is their chance to express their opinions and their stories. And here today we have Sheila Docker, and we are going to talk about taking responsibility. Hi, Sheila. How are you?
Hi, Sophie. Good to see you. Thanks for inviting me on.
Thank you for being there. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself, please?
Yes, so my name is Sheila Docker and I am a health and wellness coach. I have my own business called The Primal Zone. I'm also an NHS health coach, and I'm an ambassador for a couple of charities as well that deal mostly with helping people with their health and wellness choices. So as a health and wellness coach, I work with mostly midlife men and women, and I also do workshops for corporates as well.
Okay, so in what you do, I take it, and that's what we're here really, people do need to take responsibilities for the results that they're going to get.
Yes, indeed. And that's the fact that you're talking about taking responsibility. That's what I had to do. And that's why I am now a health and wellness coach myself. So I have my own transformation success where I did have to take responsibility from my late teens, really. But for about 30 years, I was had body-wide inflammation. I had health challenges for 30 years that impacted mainly my gut. That's where it all started, because our gut is our second brain. But so I was bloated in my belly. I had to know where the toilet was all the time. My joints ached. I suffered with migraines. Very hormonal, absolutely exhausted all the time, emotional roller coaster. And that was for over 30 years. So that sounds like I must have been in bed all the time. And I absolutely wasn't. I did live a life. I backpacked for 2 years in my 20s around the world, and I worked for corporates. I worked for Cisco Systems for some time, which was in the early days of Cisco, when it was quite an entrepreneurial place to work. So I traveled quite a bit with them, and I ran other businesses myself. Again, I traveled a lot with those businesses. So you get a bit of a vibe going on here. I like my travel.
Yeah.
But I also raised a family. I've got 2 kids in their mid to late 20s now. So I did all that, but actually I wasn't particularly present, especially for my children. I don't know how. I think I was a great mother, but I missed certain things because I wasn't feeling good in myself.
Yeah.
And so I sometimes didn't make the occasions that would have been really nice to be part of. So I was living a life, but it wasn't until after all the medication I'd been given and all the consultants I'd seen over the 30 years and the different things that they'd given me to go, right, try this might soothe this issue, and try that might soothe that issue. Never really looking at the root cause, just sort of trying to put sticking plasters over the different challenges I was having. And I eventually ended up having 2 quite serious operations. And they were due to the fact that I'd been taking different medications over the years, the side effects. And as I was approaching my second operation, which would have been over 10 years ago now,
Yeah.
but it was quite a serious operation, and I thought, goodness me, I'm here again. I've been going to the doctors all these years and relying on them to tell me what to do, but actually it hasn't made any difference to my health and wellness, because it wasn't just my physical health, it was my mental health as well it was impacting.
Well, yeah, because suffering from gut issues myself, I mean, you do end up, when you break this rapidly and to an extent where people think you're pregnant, you end up with
Exactly.
2 wardrobes, and you end up having a lot of body dysmorphia where you feel that actually you're huge when you're not necessarily.
Well, yeah, 100%. And actually, you must have had this as well then, where I used to travel into London for work quite a lot. And you'd be wearing a particular outfit, but by the end of the day, you had to have the zip or the buttons undone because you'd bloated so much through the day. And it makes you really, really upset. I mean, it does make you feel very, very low. And because it impacts so many other areas of your life as well, it's, yeah.
Nothing like me. I mean, I've had to cancel, dinners, going out, things that I was looking forward to, and people don't get it. They'd be
They
like, "Oh,
don't.
you're just flaky," and I'm like, "I'm not flaky." Sometimes I go when I'm not way, but I can't do this one.
And actually, and it's really personal as well. If you've
Yeah,
broken your arm or your leg or something,
it's
you
obvious.
get a lot of sympathy. But when it's like, well, my gas looks green,
Yeah,
so a bit personal. But when you're really gassy and bloated, and you need to know where the toilets are when you go to that particular restaurant, or your head is just pounding, it's a miserable existence. But it's not life threatening. It's just we call them lifestyle diseases. They're based on how we are living our lives.
yeah.
And so I got to that stage before my second operation, which again was life changing. So it wasn't like it was just having a tooth out or something. It was a bit more significant than that. I thought, I've got to start taking things into my own hands. I've got to take responsibility for my own life. And I'm 59 now, but 30 of these years were spent feeling pretty rubbish. And it wasn't constant, it wasn't 24/7, but it was there in the background all the time. So thank goodness for Google. The amount of research I did, sort of like gas, pregnant looking, etc., migraines. And of course, the internet is a fantastic thing if you're looking for information. Obviously it can be quite dangerous as well, but when you're looking for information and then it suddenly clicks and you have that ta-da moment. So I found this gentleman called Mark Sissom, who is a ancestral health coach, and he's coached many athletes over the years, and I followed what he was suggesting, and literally it's ridiculous because within a week I'd begun to lose weight. Inflammation had subsided. I mean, the first thing I noticed mostly in the week is my energy went through the roof and my mental clarity improved dramatically. But it's sort of my skin cleared, my stomach was flat, my hormones settled, I had this energy and this buzz about me. And so I would say over 2 to 3 months after that.
How does it feel? Because a lot of the time, you see, people have struggled for a long time, and I even mean like in what I do. We've had an issue for years, and it's sorted in a week. And it's not that you're inverted brackets disappointed, but you're like, oh, was it that easy?
So that's a really good question, because actually what we do is we get used to feeling rubbish. We go, it's my age, my mother's got this, so I must, it's always just one of those things. I'm just going to put up with it. And that's what we do. We put up with feeling not brilliant. We feel like we put up with feeling rubbish. And there are an awful lot of things we can do to change this. So the majority of health challenges we have are lifestyle based. Obviously, there's an awful lot of health challenges and awful diseases out there that, thank goodness we've got modern medicine, thank goodness for the NHS, and 100%. But there is an awful lot we can do for ourselves. And actually, I just want to digress as well, back to that bit where we're saying about how it makes us feel personally, sort of physically and mentally, but also it impacts our career. You don't feel you have the confidence, and your relationships, absolutely. You feel that you don't have the confidence anymore. Like you were talking about body dysmorphia earlier. You don't feel. I mean, there's a thing that I say now that is when I do my workshops, I feel stronger, healthier, fitter, more energized, more adventurous, and dare I say it, sexier at nearly 60 than I did in my 20s, 30s, and 40s. So, which is quite amazing. I mean, it's a brilliant way to feel. And I'm not saying I look sexier. I'm just saying I feel sexier because I have more body confidence, not only in my body composition, but what my body will actually do for me.
Yeah.
And what it's capable of, because our bodies are pretty incredible, as are our minds, but we only have one, and we need to look after it. And if we do, we make the right choices for our bodies and our minds, then they will continue to serve us into old age.
Yeah, but don't you find that, like, in society at the moment, as a rule, there's very much of a culture of blame? It's always someone else's fault and never our own. I mean, I was watching this thing, I can't even remember when, but it was about some sort of terror attack. And it was about what happened in 2015, I think it was, in Tunisia, when this random gunman when
the beach resorts,
they kill a lot of people on the beach. And unbeknown to me, they actually funds to compensate people about that. And I was like, how does it become the government or a body's problem that a nutter has opened fire in a foreign country? These people aren't even dead. There's just the trauma of having witnessed it and stuff. And I'm just like, it feels that everything is about blame. It's never, ever our fault, or there was always a reason why. I don't know. I mean, what do you think about that?
It's interesting, actually, because I know of somebody that was, I don't know if people will remember this, but there was the huge fire in the backpackers in Australia about 20 years ago. And I know somebody that, well, I know two people that were victims of that. They were part of that. And obviously, a lot of people died. Now that what they're getting is, victim help. It's sort of like counselling, because when you have that sort of trauma, that's where you need the help. You don't need to be given a bung pile of money. It's like, right, okay, so how is that making you feel?
Now that they want a fact check as well.
Yeah. We know that America is a very litigious society, and unfortunately, I think
that's
we're
where it's
seeing
come from,
that here. Yeah, at 100%. So that's passing the blame onto somebody else. So like with my story and with lots of other people's story, how did I feel after having 30 years of being unwell to suddenly within a week feel quite a lot better, and then within 3 months all of those symptoms had gone away or subsided. I mean, I still, I'm not one. I'm human after all. I haven't sort of like suddenly switched. I know what habits I have that will impact my health and wellness mentally and physically. So. And socially. I could go, oh gosh, how upsetting and how annoying that I had 30 years of ill health. That ruined my life.
Yeah, and it's all the doctor's fault.
Exactly. Why didn't they dig deeper? Why didn't they just go, take things back to basics? Just start looking at what you're doing. They don't have time for a start. They've got 10 minutes with us, and they just want to make you feel better and get out of there again. But I guess what it's allowed me to do is to now help other people, but more importantly, it's enabled me to take responsibility for my own choices. And like I say, I am human. I do make mistakes. I do enjoy a glass of wine or two, and then that might make. Well, I'm not going to stop doing that, but we know what certain.
You know the consequences.
Yes, exactly. And what I would say that when I was struggling with those 30 years, I just put up with it and thought, well, this is the way it's meant to be. But I realized now I was surviving. I wasn't thriving. So, you just put up with it. But then when you do feel better in yourself, when you do start recognizing that you can make sustainable lifestyle changes that will positively impact the rest of your life, that's a bit of a no-brainer. It's quite exciting.
And I think this is it. And I think that's where so many people, because we're always looking for someone to blame or for an excuse or for whatever it is. I remember I hosted a singles event years ago, and there was a woman that was behind me. She wasn't talking to me. I was talking to somebody else, but I developed this skill, I suppose. It's not always a skill, but of being able to listen to 2 or more conversations. My old boss taught me that, because he said you'd find out far more, but you mainly need to learn to concentrate still on the conversation you're in, because you need them to feel that they've got rapport. Either way, this person behind me was literally blaming a future partner who she hasn't met yet for taking this long to come and find her. And I thought to myself, that's just taking it to the extreme. How can you blame that poor person who you don't even know yet? But I think that highlighted it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, that is incredible.
Yeah. And not taking responsibility, not realising that you play a part in a situation, that you play a part in an experience, and even bad stuff, when a marriage breaks down, it's not just one person. Both have played a part, conscious or unconscious.
Yeah. Absolutely. So whether it's in a accountability,
but people don't have any.
100.
I mean, that's a generalisation. Some people do, but as a rule, a lot of people are not
and
accountable.
it's like we said at the beginning, that we just get used to feeling a particular way or accepting certain things happening around us, or well, there are certain things we can't change, isn't there? And actually, that's a really good point as well. It's about controlling the controllables, and there are certain things we can control, and they're the things we need to focus on, like our reactions to what other people say and think. We don't. How are we reacting to? If we're reacting in a bad way, then that's our responsibility. But actually, what they say and do is not our responsibility. So it is about controlling what you can control and holding yourself accountable to that. So she can't control when this lady you were just referring to, she can't control when that soulmate is going to walk into her life. She just needs to control what she's doing and what she's talking about. Because if that soulmate heard what she was saying, it'd probably walk away.
I was just thinking that, if that person was like,
that was a near miss.
Isn't going to volunteer to go and take her out for a drink.
No, absolutely.
But how does it work? So, like, when someone comes to see you, because I take it often because there is something's happened. So, they don't just go, I'm just going to go and change my life for the sake of it. It happens, but normally if there's a life event or there's a health scare or whatever, when you then hit them with, you need to take responsibility, how do they find that? Is that a bit of a shock to the system? Or?
But yeah, you're absolutely right. Normally something has happened. We like I say, we put up with things. So
yeah,
it would be like the doctor has said you need to make changes, otherwise you're going to end up having a stroke or have type 2 diabetes. I work with an awful lot of men, actually, as well as women, but I do work with a lot of men, and they are really doing very well in their careers. They could be either entrepreneurs themselves and have got their own businesses, or they're directors, or they're quite senior in certain businesses, and they've done really, really well for themselves, but they've suddenly realised that they're top of the game and probably haven't looked after themselves. They've been on that hamster wheel. They've been very competitive. They've earned well, they've got their stocks and shares, they put the kids through uni, they've got a nice house, etc. But suddenly they start thinking about, okay, I could potentially retire now if I wanted to and go on this exciting adventure, maybe travel around the world and do something really, really exciting. And whether they do it with their wife or a friend or a partner or whatever, suddenly that partner becomes a carer because they haven't looked after themselves. And rather than going on the trip, they've had a stroke or something else has happened. So it's about not waiting for these things to happen. It's about taking responsibility for your own health and wellness as soon as you can. Obviously, there's the hormones for both men and women also change. So low testosterone will show itself for the men, and that they end up looking at themselves in the mirror and going, "Oh, never used to look like that." They've got the excess weight and low mood, low libido, and are feeling tired. The reduced muscle mass and bone density, that impacts all of us from the age of 30. We start to lose that. So it's really important as we age to keep on top of that muscle mass and bone density. Because if we do, when you hit your 60s, 70s, 80s, whatever, you want to have balance, you want to have flexibility, you want to have strength. You want to be able to get off the floor if you've had a fall, etc. And you want to be able to enjoy things. Of course, we are going to slow down. There's no doubts about that. My hips are 59 years old now, so they've had, so things will wear out. So I will work with these people. They will come to me and I offer a very safe space. So you'll find that they might come to me about, I want to lose some weight. I've got a picture of myself taken at a corporate event, and I haven't looked like that for years. I want to get back on track. But then you find out they're going through a marriage breakup, or there's issues at work that are causing them awful amounts of stress, but also lacking in confidence. Although they may be this, I'm using men as an example here, so it's quite generic, but they may be the captain of industry and people look at them and respect them, but underneath they're going, I said, how would you describe yourself? Well, I feel a bit weak and pathetic at the moment. Well, what about your colleagues or your friends? Oh, well, I'm dynamic, I'm intelligent, I'm funny, I'm loyal, and all these amazing things come out of their mouths about what other people think about them, and they're not feeling it themselves. So it's about building that up as well, and understanding that, yeah, like I say, a lot of people come to me about weight, but actually it could be other things causing that weight gain. It could be gut issues. Yeah, it could be the stress they're in. If they're not sleeping properly, if they're not getting enough movement. I mean, sleep is a biggie and stress is a biggie with regards to putting weight on. Some people will lose weight when they're under a lot of stress. But the majority of people will put that weight on. And over-exercise actually is not good for the body either. So you do not need to be pounding the pavements and really putting your body through a hard time, because that will just raise your cortisol levels, which will then impact your inflammation in your body.
Yeah. And do you find that some of them just go, no, actually that's too difficult? And because they're in that kind of like mentality of looking for something else to blame themselves, like the stress, for instance, in the example you've just given, actually they just become a victim.
So again, it goes back to the controllables, isn't it? So there are certain things that might be causing them stress they can't control. It could be, like I say, a marriage breakup, or it could be a massive change in a business, or other concerns that they may have. But again, it's recognizing what strategies you can put in place to actually control how you react to that. Because stress is a killer. It is a cause of many diseases.
One of the things I find a lot is when people, they say they're taking responsibility, they say they want to take responsibility, but really what they're doing is looking and making excuses as to why it can't work. I'm not convinced is sometimes the words they use, or it won't work, it's not what I want. But they don't try, as I say, they just then become the victim and find excuses in advance as to why it can't work.
Well, we can't change all the people all the time, can we? But I would say,
no, but I think it's society that makes it.
Oh, absolutely. And I would say, well, how much do you want this?
Yeah.
Do you want to feel better? Do you want to feel more in control and empowered? Do you want to feel that you're no longer trapped in that cycle? Are you ready to start a new chapter? Do you want to feel powerful, positive, and confident, and then be able to take that feeling into new relationships or friendships or into your work or whatever? You know, it's how much do you want it? If you're doubting something, just give it a go. What have you got to lose? You know, give something a go for a month and see how that makes you feel. Because obviously these habits can be quite difficult to make changes, but these habits will take a while to actually dig in. It's a bit like giving up smoking or cutting down on certain things, or starting a new exercise regime, or doing mindfulness, meditation. People might go, oh, that's a bit woo-woo. Well, just give it a go. Just give it a go. Because there are plenty of things out there that you will give a go, like driving to McDonald's and getting your Big Mac or whatever, or a new drink, or a new, there's things we will try automatically that might not be so good for us. But I think maybe people are a little bit apprehensive about, oh, what if I feel good and I have to give up all these things that I was enjoying.
Instead is the feeling good, because I think that I look around me, and especially on social media, you've got the real grumpy ones. It's always bad, it's always whatever. But ignore those. A load of people will only post positive things. And as a result, people seem to think that we should never, ever have bad stuff happen or bad emotions, as opposed to understanding that actually there's a law of physics here, which is like a wing. It goes down, but it must go back up. If we go down again, you go back up. And by refusing to accept its negative emotions and then having all this, what I class as, I don't like affirmations. The reason why I don't like affirmations is because I class them as full positivity. You can say to yourself as many times as you want, I am looking beautiful today, blah, blah, blah. If you just put on a stone because you've bloated, because you've eaten something you shouldn't, it doesn't matter how many times you say it to yourself, you will not feel it.
No.
And instead, then you should embrace that negative emotion to give yourself the strength and work through it as to why and what you can do to get out of it, as opposed to being falsely positive.
No, I understand that, and affirmations work for some people. They don't. I'm also one that doesn't. Even this manifestation, throwing things out to the universe. I try to do that, and then every so often I go, oh, but it won't really work, will it? So that's me, taking it back.
Yeah.
But I think that if rather than, like you just said, saying something that you feel is a false positive because you're not feeling like that. Go, okay, so what am I going to do about it? What am I going to do about how I'm feeling right now? What am I going to do about changing the way I feel about how I'm looking? Because you're the only person that can do that.
Yeah.
Again, it's about taking that responsibility. So, yes, so whether it's how you feel you're looking, or about your work, maybe you're overwhelmed with work. And I get like this. I procrastinate massively. So then I've got piles of paper everywhere. And people have to remind me about the elephant. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Okay, that helps. That helps me because I don't need to do everything right now. I just need to do baby steps. And that's the same with making decisions about your health, about your social life, maybe about your work. It's about taking those baby steps and moving forward.
What do we do when I'm a bit of a procrastinator myself? But what I've found is that, so there's a friend of mine who's also in business, and we are both the same. So we started weekly accountability calls. By next week, we have achieved A, B, C, or D. And we do keep each other in check. And like, you probably like biting too much when you can chew here, and blah, blah, blah. And now what we started doing, we work together one day a week, because just having someone there, instead of going to put the washing on, it forces you to do that. I might as well do that. And all of a sudden, you've achieved far more just because there was someone there. But going back on that, I think the main problem is that we beat ourselves up. We don't have any compassion for ourselves, and we don't admit that we're human and we're going to make mistakes. And if we make mistakes, and if we take responsibility for said mistakes, then you've got... I remember a boss of mine, he said, I won't mind you doing anything wrong as long as you don't do it twice.
Yeah, learn by your mistakes.
Yeah, take responsibility. Okay, no worries, you've done it once, do it again, I've got a problem with you. And to a degree, yeah, fair enough.
That's really interesting, actually, because I had a boss, in my 20s now. It was before I went and did my world tour. So, I was in my early 20s. And I was his admin PA. He was a sales director. And he goes, honestly, Sheila, goes, I get so fed up with these guys just coming in with their sales guys coming in with their problems. He goes, I should have a sign above my door that says, by all means, come in with your question, your problem, but have 2 solutions to discuss, even if they're rubbish. Just having thought about it yourself before you've gone running into his office, that here are 2 things I might be able to do, and then you can discuss it. So so it's taking responsibility for that as well, isn't it? But also interesting what you were saying about social media. I mean, it is the thief of all joy, isn't it? So because we start comparing, and like you're saying, people do not post rubbish stuff.
A lot of it is unconscious. We don't realise we're doing it.
Yeah. Absolutely. So like you were saying about people always put up the good posts. Of course they do, but they do. So it could be someone on holiday and you go, oh gosh, look at that beach, look at that, oh look how lovely they look as that family in that beautiful filtered picture. But it doesn't show the baby screaming on the plane on the way out there, and the argument that she had with her husband, and the fact they got to their hotel and the room they booked wasn't ready, or they'd been moved to something else. And it doesn't show all that. It just shows that final thing that they want you to see, that they've framed for you. And everybody's guilty of that, putting things on social media that obviously you want other people to see. But there are times that some people are more vulnerable and do share things that are you want to read, and it's a thief of all joy. And we need to focus on our own personal fulfillment, because if we, whether it's our happiness, our health and wellness, our mental fitness, etc., everybody else benefits.
Yeah, completely.
So if we're focusing on our own personal fulfillment, then if I'm happy, Sophie's going to be happy. My husband's going to be happy. Great. Happy wife, happy life.
Yeah.
So people take on an awful lot of responsibility as well for other people.
It's isn't it? Because even if you are feeling a little bit grumpy, and I mean, I remember someone I met networking, and at the beginning of the year, we were both a little bit down in the dump. I've not spoken to her for quite a while, and she said, do you fancy a moanathon? So on Zoom, we had a moanathon, and we just bitched and moaned for a good hour. But venting is fine too, because once we we started laughing, and we were seeing other things. Oh, you ought to do this, and you ought to do that. But it is contagious if it is done properly, because it's okay to moan for an hour as long as like we've then done,
because you've offloaded, haven't you?
We don't repeat the same thing time and again.
Yeah.
My mother's terrible for just like being negative and then like try to drag you a bit more and find something else to drag you down, and it's exhausting to have to keep on like getting her back out of it.
It's interesting because actually as well, what you're talking about venting then as well is it's almost like you go, actually, now that I've just said that out loud, it's not such a biggie after all, is it? But but you've vented it, you've let it out, it's gone, and some of the things you go, oh, actually, maybe I need to relook at that. Okay, that's important. And but going back to how infectious it is for people, I mean, what I find attractive about people, really attractive, very, very sexy, is if they make me laugh.
Yeah.
I find that the most attractive thing. So whether you're, well, I'm not going to say certain actors because I find them attractive and other people might not, but because they're not the maybe the most attractive, but they've got the most incredible sense of humour, and they make you laugh so much. The foot stamping, belly aching laugh. I find that really attractive, and like you say, that's infectious. So if someone comes in with a smile, it makes other people smile. If somebody comes in and they're moaning about the fact that their soulmate hasn't bothered even turning up in their lives yet, that's going to impact other people around them.
Exactly.
It's that negative vibe, isn't it? And it's so it's taking responsibility also for how you are with other people
and how you come across them. And I think sometimes, because there was one particular time, this was years ago, it's in my book actually, because I used it as an example. I was not happy. I can't even remember what about. I was not happy. So I decided to walk, not drive, because walking obviously was sunny, so that might help with like removing some of the angst, for emergency wine. So go Sainsbury's, go and get emergency wine. And I thought, en route, I am going to try and smile at everybody I come across, right? The first person kind of run away, probably because I was so grumpy showing me teeth. I was really quite scary.
It was like a snarl.
Yeah. By the time I got to Sainsbury's, only 10-minute walk, to be fair, I was better than myself. And people started actually smiling first, And it was just by trying to change that frame of mind, because I mean, whether it was a valid reason to be grumpy or not, I couldn't tell you. I can't remember. But I decided to do something about it.
So, question: Did you get the bottle of wine still?
Of course, I did.
But it is true. If not everybody wants to be smiled at, but there will be people that will go, "Gosh, that woman smiled at me this morning, and actually, it really made my day because I was not in a good place," or then they might be smiling at somebody else. They've paid it forward. It's what I was going to say, if you don't mind me just going back to looking after ourselves, like I was going to say that most of us will have to be looking after something or someone else, and quite often we'll have parents and children, so a bit of a sandwich community. But you may be looking after elderly parents, you may be running a business as well, and you've got your home, and you've got this, and you've got that. None of those things are going to benefit by having you looking after them if you're not in the best place yourself.
Yeah, completely.
And the same with building new relationships. If you're well, we've just said it about that lady looking for a soulmate. If you're not feeling full of energy and confidence and wanting to share conversation, have that social connection with other people because you're not feeling great about yourself, that is going to impact how people will approach you and whether they want to approach you.
Yeah, and I think talking purely of relationships, so just this weekend gone, I was talking with, interestingly, he's an ex-boyfriend of mine. A load of my friends are ex-boyfriends because unless we've done something really bad and drastic, I like them as a person.
Yeah, you like them for a reason, didn't you?
I wouldn't have them as a friend in my life going forward. But anyway, we were talking about the last guy I was with and why I haven't moved on. And one of the things I said to him is, I'm not ready. And as far as I'm concerned, I've got to walk my talk, because if I am not ready, I am not going to give anything of any value to that person, because he's going to know that I'm not completely in it. And therefore, I need to wait until I am ready. And I think that's another thing, going back to taking responsibility and stuff. It'd be nice to have someone to share stuff with, but if I'm not ready, it's not fair on anybody, on me, on him, on anybody else involved. And unfortunately, there's too many people that then start to think me, and don't take responsibility for the consequences that's going to have on someone. Because I've seen people that have moved on far too quickly, and that have then devastated someone that really didn't need it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, you were talking there about walking the talk, weren't you? So look, making sure you're looking after yourself, being ready. And it'd be the same with what I do. You know, you have to practice what you preach.
Exactly.
And admit that we're human, because we are going to make our own mistakes. We are going to have things that knock us in life, because life does have a habit of throwing things at us on a very regular basis. But it's, again, taking responsibility for how we handle that. Even if it means putting yourself in bed for a while, or curling up and just having a couch day or whatever, you need to mentally and physically be able to look after yourself, and then it's then how you bounce back from that.
Yeah, completely.
And the strategies that you put in place.
Yeah. Well, Sheila, we're getting towards the end of our time together, believe it or not. So can you leave us with a pearl of wisdom, please?
Oh, golly. So there'll be a couple, actually. One of them is, we were talking about foods earlier and how that impacts us, and with our lifestyle diseases. Remember that 80% of your body composition is based by what you put in it, and the rest of it will be what you've inherited, your sleep, your stress, your energy, your things that the other things that you do. So, and also that dieting doesn't work. It's about changing our habits. And changing our diet. That's what works. And that most health challenges are based on the lifestyle choices that we are making.
Yeah. Right. Thank you so much. That is unfortunately all we've got time for today.
It's been fun.
Yeah. Thanks, Sheila. And for everybody else, if you enjoyed the show, then please subscribe, leave us a review, but more importantly, come back for the next episode. Thank you.